Hello, my name is Marta Erlandson and I'm assistant professor here in the College of Kinesiology at the University of Saskatchewan. Today I'm going to chat a little bit about how we can get kids more active and how we can be more active as a family. My area of interest is the effects of physical activity and inactivity on children's growth and development. So I'm really interested on how does physical activity or lack of physical activity impact kids in both the short and long term. So my goal as a researcher is to get more kids active. How can we get kids out there achieving the physical activity guidelines that are recommended? So in Canada, we have what are called the 24-hour movement guidelines. And what they recommend is that kids get 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per day. So what that means is kids should go out and do things that are going to get their heart rate up. It should be a little bit difficult to talk while you're doing it. You should be breathing hard. You might be sweating a little bit. Get out there and really get moving around. For adults, what the Canadian guidelines recommend is that they get 150 minutes of physical activity per week. So kids, we want daily recommendations. We want them out there every single day achieving that 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. Unfortunately, we know that in Canada, less than half of the kids meet the physical activity guidelines. So less than half of our kids are active enough to reach 60 minutes of physical activity. And now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, what we've seen is that kids are even less active. So I'm involved in a study with another colleague here at the university, Dr. Louise Humbert, and our PhD student, Natalie Hauser, and we looked at physical activity levels before the pandemic, so what were kids doing in 2019, and then we measured them again this year during the pandemic. And what we found is that there's been a drastic decrease in the amount of physical activity that kids are getting. And we also asked some questions around how much activity parents get and how much activities they do as families. What we found was that in all of those categories, so the amount of activity that parents do, the amount that kids do, and the amount that they engage in as families have all decreased due to COVID-19. So now more than ever, it's important that we get out there and we become active. We make sure our kids are active, and one way to do that is to be active as a whole family. So I'm going to go through just a few different tips in order to try to increase your physical activity levels of kids and as a family. So one of the things that is really important is that you are active together. So parents shouldn't sit on the sidelines. We want to make physical activity a fun family event. So for my family, I have two little boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we do lots of different things together as a family. So maybe that means going outside, and instead of going for a walk like you might with your adult friends, we go on a lion hunt or we go on a bear hunt. So we go out into the park, and during our walks we look for different things. What can you do to get your kids engaged to get out there? I know we found it very difficult at the start when all the playgrounds and things like that were closed. So we look for creative ways to get outside and be active as a family. Doesn't mean you have to be out there running or doing things like that. It means you can go to the playground. Get active with your kids, climb on the structures with them, play with them. It's important to engage in both structured and unstructured play as well. So right now we're finding that obviously our opportunities for structured play may be very limited. And so what can we do for unstructured? Sometimes we take our 3-year-old out to the community rinks. There are so many community rinks that are available right now. A lot of the ponds have been shoveled off. You can take your shovel and help with skating. Well, sometimes my 3-year-old decides that, you know what, he doesn't want to skate today. So instead, we go and we slide down the hill for an hour. So he's still getting physical activity. He's climbing up that hill and having tons of fun sliding down. He doesn't realize that he's out there being active. So that's one big tip, is to be active as a family. And you really need to keep play fun. So don't focus on the rules. Don't focus on the fact that, if we're playing soccer or baseball or football, that these are the rules of the games. Just encourage movement. Doesn't matter that, my 3-year-old calls basketball that he's kicking a ball. That's fine. We want them out there being active and doing different things. A big one that we find is turning off the TV. So yes, it's great to get outside and be active. We've had phenomenal weather this winter so far, obviously not the last few days, but before that, we were getting outside, whether that meant, just walking home from daycare, walking around the block, building a snowman, doing all sorts of things outside. But when it gets to be minus 54 with the wind chill, a little bit harder to encourage children to go outside, and might not even be safe to do so. So we can do activities inside as well. And there are so many great resources out there that we can look at for finding different activities. So the Saskatchewan in Motion website is fantastic. They have a drop-down menu for parents. They also have it for teachers if you're a teacher watching this and are interested in getting some of your kids more active in the school setting. So they have lots of resources. One of the resources that they have up on their website is the Pajama Olympics. So how do we get kids moving inside? It doesn't always have to be outdoors. I know when it's cold outside, it may be very difficult to encourage your kids to go outside. So rather than going outside, maybe you create an obstacle course inside your house. Use some painter's tape, use some different blankets, things like that. We have lava on the carpet and put down different couch cushions, and we will leap from cushion to cushion. Maybe you have to climb underneath some kitchen chairs. My children, if you let them, will climb onto every cupboard surface as well, so they're very excited if they get to add some climbing in because they are a little bit more supervised if we're doing a circuit type thing. So there are lots of opportunities to get kids moving, not only outside but inside as well if it's very cold. The biggest thing is to give them the space and opportunity to play. So I'll often get asked, how do you get kids active? Well, kids inherently want to be active. If you get down on the ground level with them and you are active with them, they're very excited to be active with you. So being a role model is very important. Children who see their parents being regularly active are more likely to be active themselves. So again, just being that role model, being active together, making sure that play is fun, turning off some screens. So another thing that we've found during the pandemic for some research, and it's on the Participation website if you want to go look at it, is that kids are spending an increasing amount of time in front of the screen. So not only are we seeing decreases in physical activity, kids aren't being as active on their own, they're not being as active with their families, but they're also spending an increased amount of time in front of screens. And we know that screens further decrease physical activity. So if kids are, kind of doing more sedentary activity, but they're playing with toys, they're going to be a lot more active than if they are spending more time in front of a screen. So as Canadians, as we're trying to follow these public health guidelines and places for structured play are closed, how can we get out there and be active? And again, just being active together. If you want to be out there, your kids will be out there as well. And there are lots of different resources. So I briefly mentioned the Saskatchewan in Motion website. So they have great resources that you can go and look at. There's also a website called Active for Life, and it's also a Canadian one. So they give lots of great activities of how can you get outside and how can you be active together. So if you have older kids, maybe that's you try something like cross-country skiing. We have lots of great places in the city that you can rent gear from. My 3-year-old loves snowboarding. So lately we've been spending a lot of time taking him to Optimist Hill. It hasn't been busy at all. It's been a great place to go. So once he, gets tired of the hill kind of just in our park, we can take him to Optimist. It's still within the city and he can go out and try snowboarding. This year, they have groomed more cross-country ski loops in the city than ever before. So there's opportunities to go outside, take your family doing that, go skating on the local community rinks. We're lucky in Saskatchewan in that they've flooded the community rinks. In some provinces this year with COVID, they did not. So, wear your mask, go out, get active on the rinks with your kids. They'll absolutely love it. If you haven't been skating before, you can start with just learning to walk on the ice with your boots. So there's lots of different opportunities. And I know at least at the rinks around our house, they actually have some of the little tripods to help kids skate. So they're trying to encourage people to be out there and get moving. Go out to your local hill and go sliding. I'll create or post some links of some different places where you can get great second-hand outdoor clothes. So, if maybe you don't have lots of warm clothes to get outside, which right now that is important, I'll post some links where you can go and buy used skates, where you can go and get used cross-country skis, where you can get used snowshoes, used outdoor gear. Just get outside and be active with your kids. They will absolutely love it. Anytime they have an opportunity to play with you, they will take it and they will love to play outside. So thank you so much for taking some time about some different ways that we can get outside and be active with our families, and just that now more than ever it's important. We know that kids are getting less opportunities to be active in the school setting. Their structured activity that they would be able to normally engage in terms of sports has really been limited this year, and so the family and the home is one place where we can really encourage kids to get moving and to meet those physical activity guidelines. And it gives you benefits as well, in that you're also then able to meet those guidelines for yourself if you're being active with your kids. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll try to support you in any way that you can. And I will provide a link with the website for some of those resources that I talked about. Thank you so much. Have a great day and enjoy your family day long weekend.